It's certainly been quite the year, hasn't it? The next generation consoles are all officially out, promising new experiences, while the old systems seem to still have plenty of life left in them. And I'm here to let all you fine people watching know what games released over the past 12 months stood out to me as something special because, well, I'm assuming you care, because if you don't, then, I don't know, go watch Game Grumps or something. Last year I gave you my top 5 games of 2012. This year I've decided to not only do that, but also throw in a few honorable mentions. Games that I enjoyed, but just didn't quite make my favorites list for one reason or another. But before I get to it, there's a few things to point out. First, keep in mind that these are my opinions. I'm not going by what critics say or what the general consensus is. This is solely what I think based on my experiences. Secondly, I've played quite a number of games, but there's no possible way I can play everything. This is an expensive hobby after all. And if I haven't played it, I obviously can't qualify it. Also, if your favorite game this year happens to be on the Nintendo Wii, 3DS, Vita, or PS4, then sorry you won't be hearing about it because I don't currently own any of those systems. Finally, games that aren't finished yet don't count, like alphas, betas, or incomplete episodic adventures. Alright, now that that's all clear, let's get started. First with my honorable mentions, which are in no particular order. The Last of Us. Let's just get this out of the way right now. The Last of Us will not be making my top 5 list.
WTF, The Last of Us is the best game ever. This guy is obviously just stupid or just a troll.
Look, I know that everyone thinks The Last of Us is the single greatest thing ever crafted by human hands, but I just don't agree. I actually think that it's pretty overrated in some regards. Don't get me wrong, I like the game, I do think it's a quality product and would recommend it to PS3 owners, but I'd also tell them to mind their expectations. Fundamental issues with combat, i.e. there's way too much of it, and a story that, while a good character study is pretty by the numbers and predictable, stuck out to me a great deal. I'm sure it'll win a ton of awards, and if you honestly love it and think it's worthy of all the praise, more power to you, but to me it had enough faults to lower my opinion of it and keep it off my list. BioShock Infinite.
OMG, really? Infinite 2? Okay, this guy is just a troll. His opinions are all invalid, and I'm unsubscribing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much digging myself a very large hole, but much like The Last of Us, BioShock Infinite will not be making my list. It's a game that I was way into during my initial playthrough, and yes, the ending is pretty damn cool and thought-provoking, but once I had finished it and had time to reflect, I slowly realized that most of the game didn't leave much of an impact. The combat is totally solid, but feels standard and somewhat out of place, and while some of the story bits are great and led to tons of fascinating discussion, a good majority of it was more or less padding. Another good game with interesting moments that I just don't like as much as everyone else. Metro: Last Light. The thought process I used to reach my conclusions of Last Light might seem bizarre to some of you. It's better in every way than its predecessor, Metro 2033. It looks better, sounds better, and removes much of the clunkiness prevalent in 2033, putting it right up there with some of the best shooters released this year. But to me, the clunkiness gave Metro its charm. All the little quirks, while occasionally frustrating, sold the idea of a post-apocalyptic setting where everything was thrown together out of spare parts. Now that just about all of that is gone, what's left is a high-quality, polished shooter that just doesn't resonate with me the same way the original did. Saints Row 4. I love the Saints Row series. Its brand of crude, over-the-top ridiculousness has always appealed to me, and Saints Row 4 is no exception. If you ever wanted a game that allows you to live out your fantasies of being a crime lord and a superhero, then this has got you covered. So why is it just an honorable mention? Well, while being an overpowered badass can be fun, it also means the game has no challenge and can be a bit of a chore to play through at times. And while jokes are sometimes hilarious and extremely referential to the series in a way a fan like me can really appreciate, it also misses more often than it should. An enjoyable power fantasy, but not quite incredible. State of Decay. Zombie games are a dime a dozen these days, so it takes quite a bit for one to stand out as something special. State of Decay accomplishes this by focusing on one aspect many zombie-related games don't: pure survival. It's not about mowing down hordes with a machine gun while running to a safe house. You have to be cautious, scavenge for supplies, and avoid large hordes. It was a refreshing take on the genre, and is exactly why games like this and DayZ get so much attention. However, numerous bugs and technical issues, especially a frame rate that behaves like a speedometer, are annoyances that constantly break immersion and keep it from cracking my list. Okay, and with that out of the way, now on to my personal favorite games of 2013. starting at number 5. Call of Juarez Gunslinger. The Call of Juarez series is one of the most inconsistent franchises of this generation, ranging from great to offensively bad. Thankfully, Gunslinger falls into the former category. The arcade-style shooting is fast-paced and lots of fun, especially for killstreak and high-score junkies, and the framing device of the story sets up some pretty clever encounters in level alteration. It is relatively short, only lasting a few hours, but for the budget price and high level of replayability, Gunslinger is a great time and is easily one of the most refreshing shooters I've played in a while.
Bet you got some great stories.
A few.
Dead Rising 3. Remember how before I said zombie games where you're just mowing down hordes were getting old? Yeah, I wasn't talking about Dead Rising 3. Arguably the best launch exclusive across both new systems released this year, Dead Rising 3 just lets you cut loose and decimate mass numbers of walkers with a wide array of ridiculous weaponry, while also removing or streamlining some of the more frustrating elements from past games in the series. I've always enjoyed the Dead Rising franchise, but this installment is easily the most fun I've had with it. Yeah, the story is super dumb and just kind of there, but who cares about that when you're slicing through crowds of the undead like a hot knife through butter? It just doesn't get old. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Black Flag makes my list not only because it's a great game in its own right, but because it did something I never thought possible. It made me care about Assassin's Creed again. I found AC3 to be a mostly joyless experience with a boring protagonist, uninteresting story, and some frustrating mission design. Assassin's Creed 4 thankfully addresses these issues and creates an entertaining, swashbuckling adventure that not only ranks up there as one of the best in the series, but also one of the best pirate games to date. It still retains some of the issues of previous installments, like occasionally wonky combat and climbing, and relies far too much on tail and eavesdrop missions that aren't particularly fun, but these issues are easy to forgive when the package as a whole is so entertaining. If Ubisoft can keep up this momentum with the inevitable sequels, then I'm excited and optimistic to see where the series goes from here.
I see a recto windward and a lofty ship to lee, a sailing down along the coast of high Barbary.
Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm sure you all saw this one coming. When you think Grand Theft Auto, you think quality, and that holds true with Grand Theft Auto 5. Every time a new game in this series comes out, it sells like crazy and gets universal praise, and it's easy to see why. Los Santos is massive with tons to do, the acting is stellar across the board, and the various missions, especially the heists, are wildly entertaining and lead to plenty of memorable, over-the-top moments. While I don't think the writing and overall story are as tight as previous games, and a lot of the humor seems to be trying too hard and completely falls flat, these are minor gripes in an overall stellar single-player campaign. Then there's GTA Online. It's impossible to deny the fun that my friends and I have had and will continue to have playing together and causing mischief in multiplayer Los Santos, but the online component isn't quite what I was hoping for. The grind required to get to the more entertaining missions and the numerous, if understandable, issues at launch kinda soured me on the experience a little bit. But when looking at the package as a whole, it's impossible to deny its overall quality, and I'm sure I'll sink plenty more hours into GTA 5 until the next installment. Gone Home. My favorite game this year isn't some multi-million-dollar project released by a massive publisher with endless hours of content. No, my favorite game this year is a small indie title that costs $20 and lasts maybe a total of 2 hours. Gone Home was an experience that struck me in a way I never expected, and is a title I regularly find myself thinking about. This brief journey through a creaky house in the middle of the night was refreshing, and did more to draw me in and make me care than most AAA releases ever do. Exploring every room, examining every little object was a strangely captivating experience that pulled me in and never let go. Discovering where the occupants of this house were, specifically my sister Sam, had me going through a gauntlet of emotion, thanks largely to the excellent writing and voiceover work.
The sunset light in this house is the saddest thing I've ever seen.
The story told here may not be groundbreaking, but it's personal, touching, and told so well and with such care and emotion that I couldn't help but feel for the characters at every turn. Gone Home impacted me in a way games rarely do, and is not only my favorite game of 2013, but is also one of the most memorable interactive experiences I've ever had. I know it might not hold the same weight for everyone. There are those that call it pretentious, overpriced, or boring, and I can see where they're coming from, but for me personally, those 2 hours will stick in my mind for a long time to come. I hope for more games like Gone Home in the future, and happily award it my best game of 2013.
I just want to sleep. Maybe I'll go up to the attic and wait.
Well, my friends, those are my top games of 2013. What do you think of my choices? Do you think they're valid and I made good points? Or do you think anything I say about games from this point on is completely wrong because I obviously have no idea what I'm talking about? And hey, while you're discussing that in the comments below, let me know what your favorite games of 2013 were. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you guys have enjoyed all my videos, and I'll see you in 2014.